They headed to Kenmore Plantation, pretty famous historical site here in Fredericksburg. It's the home of Fielding Lewis and Betty Washington. That's George Washington's sister. Okay, and to let you know, you buy tickets to the left here. Took me a minute to find that out. All right, bought my ticket. They're $12. And sorry if my face is greasy. I just lathered up suntan sunscreen. And yeah, so this is a historic plantation. It was built in 1775. Built by Fielding Lewis and Betty Washington. And he was a prominent merchant here in Fredericksburg. Fielding actually died 1781, so it was pretty much Betty's house. She lived here until she died, which was 1797. So she had 16 years to herself. And 3 blocks behind the house was Mary Washington's home, and at the time Kenmore extended to her backyard. And yeah, so she was widowed. She lived there until 1789, so you could imagine they spent a lot of time together. Let's see, Charles Washington, her brother, lived a couple blocks down to the left at the Rising Sun Tavern. So, and then to also let you know, the house when it was built, it wasn't called Kenmore. It was named Kenmore in 1819 when the Gordon family bought it and moved in, and they named it after their ancestral home back in Scotland. That the main house is the only original structure on the property. These 2 houses to the left and to the right, these dependencies, they were built in 1922 during a restoration. So another interesting tidbit. 1866, right after the Civil War, Virginia formed a baseball league. Fredericksburg had one of the teams, and the Fredericksburg team, they were called the Darbytown Darbies. They played on the grounds here. I just thought I'd take a walk over here, take a look at this monument. A lot of people don't know it's here, but it's a placard dedicated to George Rogers Clark. He was general during the Revolutionary War. He was actually the head general in the Western theater of the war out in the Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio territories. And to be honest, I'm not sure why this placard's here. I know that he grew up in Caroline, and in adulthood he lived in Indiana and in Kentucky, but pretty neat nonetheless. And the interesting note, he's actually the older brother of William Clark of Lewis and Clark fame. And then an interesting connection that Fielding Lewis, his uncle, was the grandfather of Meriwether Lewis of Lewis and Clark fame. So I don't know, it's kind of a strange connection. So all right, just gonna walk over, get ready for my tour. And this is where the slaves and indentured servants entered.
Oops. This is the key.
Oh, wow.
So Betty had a key ring with keys like this for every door in the house.
Pretty neat work on the stairs, and just finished the house tour. No filming inside. She did let us take pictures, and pretty impressive. Yeah, the plasterwork on the ceiling work was pretty amazing. So I'll throw some pictures of that up. Rappahannock River's that way. Fielding owned all the land going all the way back to the river. And this was a tobacco plantation. It was kind of a smaller plantation. There were about 80 slaves working. and he actually paid for the passage of 160 indentured servants to build this to build this house. And that little black thing, there's not one on the other side. I think that's supposed to represent maybe a cannonball. She said this place was shot twice during the Civil War, and it caused some. There's still some damage to one of the ceilings. All right, walk through these gardens, and some quick information on Betty. She was born out in Pope's Creek, out in Westmoreland County. She moved when she was 5 years old to Ferry Farms, of course. She lived there until adulthood. And to let you know, she's a year and just a couple months younger than George. So, yeah, she married Fielding. They moved here to Fredericksburg, and they lived here for about 20 years before Kenmore was built, or before they moved in. And they lived down off Caroline Street, she said. So, and then she moved out of this house in 1795, and she moved to a smaller plantation, and I think her son was running the house. But anyway, she died out in Culpeper visiting a family member. GoPro died, so use my cell phone. I guess I'm gonna ramble on a little about Fielding Lewis. He was born out in Gloucester County at Warner Hall, a big plantation out there. So you can take a look at it. You can visit. It's a bed and breakfast now, and it's right near Rosewell Plantation. I mentioned that because I was out there a few weeks ago. I did a video, and yeah, so he's born into an upper class gentry family. His father was successful in the mercantile business, and yeah, they made their way to Fredericksburg, and his father opened a store off Caroline Street in 1749. They call it the Lewis store now, and Fielding took it over in the 1750s. So yeah, then he also Fielding also became successful in the shipping business. All right, so back here, site of 18th century storehouse. "12 feet by 24 feet. Yeah, looks like they just stored surplus products. So, yeah, owned a shipping business, and I know that he had 5 ships. 2 or 3 were ocean-going vessels, and he imported a lot of goods from England. And I know that he had one ship called the Dragon that during the Revolutionary War, it patrolled the Rappahannock because citizens were afraid that England was going to try to attack Fredericksburg. There's little gaps there in the brick. That's left over from the scaffolding from when the building was built. So kind of neat that's still there. All right, so yeah. So he's most noted as being he was selected to be General of Munitions during the Revolutionary War for Fredericksburg, and he opened a gunnery here. And to let you know, the gunnery, it was right off of Hazel Run, and it was on the grounds where the Walker Grant High School. Any local residents, they would know where it's at, and it's about a mile east of the Route 3 Lafayette Boulevard interchange. So, and there were actually 5 people selected to the committee. And just to quickly name drop, let's see, William Fitzhugh, who owned Chatham Manor, he was on the committee. Man Page, who owned Mansfield Plantation, a little further south on the Rappahannock, just inside of Spotsylvania. He was also part of the Page family. They owned Rosewell Plantation. And then a guy named Charles Dick, another Fredericksburg resident of Fredericksburg. And yeah, his house is being restored actually, and that's being turned into a bed and breakfast as well. So yeah, I don't know who the fifth guy is, but anyway, the two principal members were Charles Dick and Fielding. And kind of a sad story, because after a couple of years, they ran out of money, and he poured his savings into the gunnery, and he was never repaid. So he died in debt. So yeah, so he lived until 1781. Like I say, he was only in this house for 6 years, and then died of tuberculosis. So kind of a sad story. And I'll also let you know, he actually married twice. His first wife was Catherine Washington, his second cousin. She bore him 3 children. She died giving birth to the third. And then, of course, Betty Washington, who was also his second cousin. And yeah, she had 11 kids with him. And that's the story on Fielding. Anyway, I'm going to walk over to the Lewis store, take a look at it. So, see ya. All right, I made it over here. I'm down off Caroline. And yeah, so this is the Lewis store, and built 1749, like I said, built by Fielding's father, John. And the Lewises actually moved here to Fredericksburg in 1742, and they had first built several smaller wooden mercantile shops, and they went ahead and built this in 49. And yeah, Fielding Lewis took over in the 1750s, and he also took over the family shipping business. And obviously they shipped goods from England to the store, and this is what first made imported goods available to the middle class here in Fredericksburg. Before, only the upper class gentry could afford imported goods. The lady over at Kenmore said that they don't offer tours, but I see they do have it done up inside. A couple of cash registers in there. Oh, and then the building actually burnt down. There's a big fire here in Fredericksburg, 1807, and when they rebuilt or repaired it, they added a second floor. It was originally a one-story building. And also let you know, Washington lived about a block and a half down that way in what is now Rising Sun Tavern. And then a block down that way is Hugh Mercer's Apothecary. So, and while I'm here, I'll let you know, here's another older building. This dates back to 1802. It's a female charter school. And then over here, the Wallace Library. This was completed in 1909. That's all I've got for Fielding Lewis, so I guess I'll see you on the next one.